There are 5 questions that will tell you in the next 10 minutes whether your parents' life insurance policy could be worth tens of thousands of dollars through a life settlement instead of just letting it lapse for nothing. I'm going to walk you through each one, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your family stands and what your next steps should be. Hi, I'm Sheila Rosiel, and if you've been following this series, you know that life settlements can turn policies that families were about to surrender into some significant cash payouts. Episode 1, I shared how someone's dad got $68,000 instead of the $23,000 cash surrender value. In episode 2, we saw how the Martinez family lost $83,000 because they waited too long. Today, I'm giving you the exact checklist that I use to do a preliminary assessment to evaluate policy's potential. Before we dive into the questions, I want to set the right expectation though. Not every policy qualifies for a life settlement, and that's okay. The goal here is to get clarity real quick so your family can make the best decision with all the information. These 5 questions will either show you there's an opportunity that's worth exploring, or they'll help you rule it out and you can focus on other options. Either way, you know where you stand. That makes sense. I recommend grabbing a pen and paper because you're going to want to write down your answers as we go along through this. Question 1, is the insured person, that's the person whose life the policy covers, 65 years old or older? 65 years old or older? Life settlement companies are looking for policies on people who are in their later years. That sweet spot typically starts at age 65, and the older, the better from a qualification standpoint. Now, if your parent is 65 to 75, that's good. If they're 75 to 85, that's even better. Over 85, those policies often get the best and highest offers. Now, if your parent is 62 or 63, don't give up hope. Some companies will consider policies on people as young as 60, especially if other factors are strong. But 65 is generally the magic number though, okay? Write down your parents' age. If they're 65 or older, put a check mark next to the question 1. Question number 2, is the death benefit $100,000 or more? Now, this is where a lot of people get disappointed. Life settlement companies typically won't consider policies with death benefits under $100,000. The transaction costs and the complexity just don't make it worthwhile, for smaller policies. That's just a fact on that. But here's the good news. If your parents' policy has a death benefit of $250,000 or $500,000 or more, you're in great territory. The larger the death benefit, the more interested life settlement companies become. Now, recently a family whose dad had a $750,000 policy. He was paying like $1,200 a month and couldn't afford it anymore. The cash surrender value was $48,000. But through a life settlement, he received $187,000. Now, go and look at your parents' policy and find the death benefit amount. If it's $100,000 or more, put a check mark next to question 2. Now, question number 3. What type of life insurance policy is it? Now, this gets a little technical, but it matters. The best candidates for life settlements are permanent life insurance policy. That means whole life, universal life, or variable life insurance policy, or IULs, Index Universal Life Insurance Policy. Term life insurance policy typically don't qualify because they don't build cash value and they expire at the end of the term, hence why they're called term policies. But if your parent has a term policy that's convertible to permanent insurance, now that might work. Here's the easy way to tell. If your parent has been paying the same premium for many years and the policy has a cash surrender value, it's probably a permanent policy. If the premium was low at first but has been increasing every few years, it might be a term insurance policy. That's how you kind of can tell. Look at the policy documents or call the insurance company and ask, is this a permanent life insurance policy or a term life insurance? If it's permanent, check mark question number 3. Now, question number 4. Has the policy been enforced for at least 2 years? At least 2 years. This is usually not a problem because most people who are considering life settlements have had their policies for many years. But life settlement companies want to see that the policy has been established and stable. If your parents' life insurance policy is 5, 10, 20, or even 30 years old, that's perfect. The longer it's been enforced, the better, because it shows a commitment to the policy and it reduces certain risks for the life settlement company, the investors, the buyers. There are some technical insurance reasons for this 2-year requirement too, that I won't bore you with it right now, but just know that older policies are generally preferred. Now, check when your parent first bought their policy. If it's been more than 2 years, that's check mark number 4. Number 5. Has your parents' health changed since they first bought the policy? Since they first bought it? This is the most delicate question, but it's important. Life settlement companies are more interested in policies where the insured person's health has declined since the policy was originally purchased. Catch that. I want to be very, very clear, though, about something. We're not hoping for anyone to be sick. But the reality is that as we age, most of us develop health conditions that we didn't have when we were younger. That's just a fact. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart conditions, arthritis. These are common age-related changes. The question isn't whether your parent is healthy or unhealthy. It's whether their health today is different from when they bought the policy 10, 20, or 30 years ago. If your parent was healthy, perfectly healthy at age 45 when they first bought the policy, but now at 75 they take medication for blood pressure and cholesterol, that's a health change, y'all, that life settlement companies factor into their offers. In other words, they like that. If your parent has had any significant health changes, medical procedures, or new diagnoses since the time they first bought the policy, that's often, very often, a positive factor for life settlement eligibility. Okay, let's see where you stand. Count up your check marks. If you have 4 or 5 check marks, your parents' policy is very likely a strong candidate for a life settlement. You should definitely get a professional evaluation. You really, really should. If you have 3 check marks, it's really worth exploring. It is. Some policies that don't check every box still qualify, especially if the numbers are strong in other areas. If you have 2 or fewer check marks, a life settlement probably isn't the best option for your family. But that doesn't mean you're out of options. It just means you should focus on other alternatives. Makes sense? Remember, this is just a preliminary screening. We have seen policies that look marginal on paper turn into great life settlements. And we've seen policies that look perfect not qualify for various reasons. Okay? In the next episode, I'm going to give you the exact script and you can tailor it if you want for how to bring this up with your parents without causing stress or making them feel like you're trying to rush them into anything. We don't like being rushed, baby boomers. I share a typical conversation that was had with older parents, including the mistakes the adult children did. They did make the first time life settlement was brought up to their parents and how they adjusted their approach with a little coaching from us, from their advisor, to make them feel comfortable and in control of the decision. Okay? If you got 3 or more check marks, don't wait to explore this option. Time matters. As we saw the Martinez family in the story in episode 2, whichever it's going to be. So check it out. Check it out. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for the next episode on having this conversation with your parents. And if you want to get a professional evaluation of your parents' policy, I'll put my contact information in the description below. You're asking the right questions right now, and you're taking the right steps to help your family. That's exactly what a caring adult child should be doing. Gen X and millennials, we know you are caught in the web because you care for your parents, and your baby boomer parents do not want to be a burden to their children. Ask me how I know.